Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Dr. Linda Howe, who's here to share with us how to read the Akashic Records, accessing the archive of your soul and its journey. So what if the answers to your life's deepest questions were already written in the archive of your soul? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Dr. Linda Howe is a leading international expert specializing in using the Akashic Records, the energetic archive of souls, for personal empowerment and transformation. By making her pathway prayer process freely available to all, she became the first person to bring conscious, reliable access to the records to the world community. A teacher in the field for the past 3 decades, Linda founded the Center for Akashic Studies in 2001. So welcome to the show, Dr. Linda Howe.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's really great to be here.
Oh my goodness. Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. And there's so many questions. I think we probably should start from the beginning. But a lot of people are going, okay, so what is, or what are, the Akashic Records?
Okay. So the first question is this plural? Is it singular? What is it? Right? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Just so you know, it really doesn't matter. The Akashic Record is a vibrational archive of every soul and its journey as human. So what that means is that it's vibrational. So because it's vibrational, we never see it. So people who say, "Oh, I saw this," I don't put much stock in a lot of that. Because it's vibrational and it's an archive. So what that means to me is that it's a treasury, right? It's a collection of every soul. Now, this is a stumper for me because what it means is every human being that has ever existed here on the earth plane throughout time is included. So the good news, good news, bad news, right? The good news is I may not like someone. That doesn't mean I can throw them out of the record. And someone really may not like me. That doesn't mean they can kick me out either. What this means is that the record is composed of each individual's consciousness coming together, right? And so everyone's included, whether we like them or not. So so it's a vibrational archive of every soul. And here's the clincher, and its journey as human, right? So whether or not a soul, people often come to me and they say things like, "Oh, I think I was a bunny rabbit in a past life," or whatever, or I'm not from here. I'm from another planet. Now, that may be true. That may absolutely be true. I don't know if someone was a bunny rabbit or if you're from the planet Smelfin. I don't know those things because the record does not address them. What is contained in the Akasha is the vibrational archive of every soul and its journey as human. So, it's a very distinct body of consciousness. And there are 2 parts, right? So Marianne, like for you, if I go into your record, I'm going to find 2 things. I'm going to find the blueprint. We call it a blueprint, even though we can't see it, right, with our human eye. The blueprint of your soul. It's really who you are. What is your divine potential, right? So that's one part. That's fixed. And what travels along with that, which I think this is so cool, is the collection. It's like a catalog, yeah, of the lifetimes you've lived through which you have grown into your potential. And so that's Does that make sense? Does that help you?
It does. And I appreciate you diving into that because I think a lot of times people, when they look at the Akashic Records and then past lives, they're like, how does this all intermingle? How does this come together? So it's
Hmm.
nice to know that there are two parts to it.
Yes, yes, there are. And this business of past lives is so fascinating because the only like from the records perspective, like if I open your records, I can't just say, I want to know her past lives. I may want to know your past lives, but I'm not going to get very far. So the way to your prior incarnations is through what's happening in your life now. It's like if there is power anywhere, and I believe there is, I believe that the point of power is in the present. It is in the present moment. I love the name of your show, by the way. Um, so that's where the power is. So we can go in through the moment and but get a load of this. We only get the past lives that are appropriate for us at this moment in time. Do you know, when I go into the record, it's like I go into the department store and there's all these different, shoes and clothes and coats and all kinds of stuff. Okay. I cannot do the whole store at once. I can do one room at a time. And it's the same with the record. And it's the same with past lives. It all depends on what do I need now? I may need a coat today. So I'll go to the coat department and I'll get one. Um, so that's how the record operates.
That is just so intriguing. And so,
Mhm.
what kind of information can we get from these records that will help us on our journey today?
Okay. So here's what's fascinating. What is really helpful? Like what makes the difference for people, for myself and others, is to answer the question, what can I do now? What action is possible now? Right? As opposed to, you know, I used to work in the record and very, very early on in the 90s, I would get these lists and I would be so overwhelmed with the list. The record doesn't operate that way. As we've gone into the heart of the Akasha, what we're finding out is that people really are motivated by this deep need to expand their experience of being known and loved, right? And through that, there are a number of choices we can make every day. My question is always, how can I grow into my next level of love? How is that possible? That's what the record will answer because the record is actually very spiritual. It's not religious, thank God, right? So it's not religious and it's not superstitious, which is really fun. I love superstition. I love things. I have a pendulum on my kitchen table that I love, but that's much more like, you know, what should I have for lunch or what top do I wear today? That that's fun. That is very good for yes, no. The record is not so good for yes, no. The record is wonderful for who am I becoming today? What are my opportunities at this point in time? How can I grow into being the loving person that lives inside of me, right? How do I manifest my divine potential? And you know what's a kicker? That's funny, the words I'm using, like it is a kicker though. Um, so I go into the record and I want to know, I have a son who is 32. He's a wonderful guy. He's very cool. He's very creative. He's many things. He's many things that I like in a friend, but I don't like him. I don't like these traits in a son. And he's been very creative since I've known him, right? Since he arrived. Anyway, I go in the record and I'm like, what do I do? And how do I parent? And now how, what's our relationship now? How do I parent him now? And lo and behold, the record will always come back to me because I will go in and I'll say, what can he do? And how can I get him to do X, Y, and Z? Whatever I want in the moment, it changes. And the record will say, well, wait a second here. What about you? What's your part? And so this is one of the elements of the Akashic experience that I really treasure. And it's within the space of this immense safety. Because, when we talk about the Akashic realm and the Akashic atmosphere, what we are referring to is an atmosphere, an environment of this immense emotional safety. And what I have learned over the years is that the safer I feel, the safer you and everybody else, everyone we know, the safer we feel, the more honest we are. And honesty is the key.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to explain that. And one of the things that you share in your book is the pathway prayer process to access the heart of the Akashic Records. And I'd love for you to share that with us. What is that?
Oh, this is so cool. So I have to tell you, first of all, I didn't start with the pathway prayer. I started with another prayer. It was terrific. It was 1994. It was what was available like that. It was great. The thing about it was it went into the Akasha at large. And that was great. So I would come out with all these lists and, you know, a tremendous amount of information. It was very information based. And with the pathway prayer, what the prayer is, it's a very simple. It's very simple. It was given to me. This is so amazing. In 2001, it was given to me through my Akashic record that I had accessed using this old method. And the pathway prayer was given to me a few days prior to 9/11, which for many people, especially Americans, this was a time of tremendous change in the consciousness here in the West, right? And what happened was that we shifted from being infallible, right, to being vulnerable, to being real. And the Akasha broke open. With every tragedy, there is a silver lining. And the silver lining was the pathway prayer process. Anyway, I digress. So what happens is I get this prayer that takes us through this. It's in the sacred prayer tradition. And what that is, the sacred prayer tradition is the tradition of words in a certain order, sounds that will move us through, I want to say, three distinct levels of awareness. The first is, the first is we get ready to go. The second is we dive in. And the third is we're there. Right. So it actually, in the saying of the prayer, which is designed to be recited out loud as written. So people will often say, oh, I just want to change this word or that word, or the grammar is not right, or whatever. I know that. I know the grammar is terrible. Come on. That's all right. The prayer works. It is a deliberate, reliable, trustworthy way to get into the record and to get back. Because anybody can go out there. You know that. Anybody like, woohoo, let's go. But the question is, can I go out there and gather what is necessary to empower me at this point in time, to empower you if I'm reading you at this point in time, and then return safely, soundly. And that's what the pathway prayer does. It's like, I have a friend who calls it the GPS of the heart of the Akasha. And I think she's right. It is. It's like, if I follow this prayer, I know I'll get into the record. Because like many people, most of the people who come to me for classes and such, Everybody's bumped into the Akasha, right? Not everybody, but people who want to learn. They've bumped into it, but they don't know how to get there, right? And I remember myself, I would be like, well, I'll drink the green drink, I'll do some yoga, I'll stand on my head, and maybe I would get there, maybe I wouldn't. But saying the prayer is very effective. So it's a wonderful way. Now, here's the other thing I think is fascinating as well, is that while it is true, it is absolutely true that working with the prayer and working in the Akasha can be very magical. It can be. There are awarenesses, there are truths that about who we are, about who we can become, about where we've been. All of this comes together in the moment. So while it is very magical, it is not magic. And there are people who will say, like, oh, I often see and I'm not seeing anything, or I hear things and I'm not hearing anything. I say, relax, give yourself a chance. It's like, when you go to the ocean is really vast, as is the Akasha. And so what we want to do is we want to wade in, right? I know, and listen, I know there are people who go to the middle of the ocean and jump. I'm not one of them. I don't know. I don't know many who are. But what we can do is we can find our way, give ourselves a chance, for heaven's sakes. And in so doing, we are embraced into a field of consciousness that is quite profound and only safe and only loving.
So, what even got you on this path of your interest in the Akashic Records?
You know, who knows? Listen, this is so funny to me because, like many things that have turned out to be so important, it seemed like an accident at the time because this is so funny. I was on a panel talking about shamanism because I had a practice of working with people doing shamanic healing, which was terrific. Listen, I loved it. It was great. It was a wonderful way to be with people and to really get to the heart of matters. Anyway, so I did that. So I was on this panel, and a woman walked into the room, and she was very esoteric. She came in, she had long robes and flowing hair, and I mean she was very spiritual, whereas at the time, this was 1994, I believe, early 94, I didn't, I being spiritual, I was like, well, that's like, I don't know, that just seemed so impossible to me. Anyway, she seemed quite spiritual. So I heard her talk. Now listen, I'm from Chicago. I have no idea what she's talking about. This woman is talking about the Akashic Record. She could have been talking about Chinese food for all I knew. I mean, really, where I come from, no one would ever use a Sanskrit word like Akasha, which means primary substance, that from which all things are formed. Anyway, I was intrigued. I thought, what the heck is she even talking about? I went to her class. She was teaching a class the following Sunday afternoon or something. And I went to her class and I followed the directions. Now, I am not a person who likes to do these things. I don't want to go to anybody's class, and I don't want to follow directions. Anyway, but I did. And when I did that, it opened something up inside of me. And I knew at that moment that this was the next right step. Now, what's funny about this, I remember this woman saying, this is an infinite resource. I thought, what's infinite, right? I didn't know what that meant. I thought that meant I would do it for a few months and be sick of it and move along. And here I am. That was 1994. Today is 2026. I'm still working in the Akasha. And over the years, I have been continually moved and inspired by the truths that have come to me and the opportunities for growth. for myself and my clients. And of course, it just has been a remarkable spiritual resource for me. Um, and and what I have learned is that anyone who wants to. Now, the surprise to me is, not everybody wants to. Everybody who wants to, anyone with a sincere desire to have a more conscious connection with their own soul can access the Akasha. That's who it's for.
That is just so empowering. And so how do these records support healing?
Oh, okay. So I let, you know, the record itself supports healing through, first of all, it's through people. So here's the first distinction, right? The records don't heal me. They really don't. I wish, I've been in there and I've said to them, hey, listen, whatever you guys want to do it. Well, no one has ever stepped forward and said, and now we're going to remove this and we're going to give you that trait or whatever. No, 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 no. So it's through the record, not by the record. Very critical distinction that took me a while to figure that out. Okay, so here's what happens. We go into a field of awareness that is embedded in the truth of who we are, which is essentially good, right? Which I didn't know. I thought I was bad. Surprise. I found out I was really good. I found out everyone else was good as well. Right. So that's the first thing, that by stepping into this realm that is perfectly safe, really safe. And if someone doesn't experience safety, that's not the record. I don't know where they went. They went somewhere, but it's not the record because the record is safe. So I go into the record, and in the space of safety, I find myself really being honest, right? About who I am, about what I've done, about my part in things, which usually comes down to a relationship of some sort, right? And that's pretty wonderful. Then what happens is this: through the expression of the truth, the opportunity to correct old ideas, we'll call them mistakes, errors in consciousness, those opportunities are presented. And from there, I can move along, which is so amazing. And here's the other piece, is that the healing through the Akashic Records is all about how much love do I have, or how much love can I express to myself? Can I be kind to myself when I am a raging jerk? Can I? Because that's what I want, right? That's what I want. That's what everyone wants, is kindness, respect, love, unconditional love. The idea of unconditional love is not some like vibration, like, it is at some level, but there's more, right? There is, for us humans, the way vibration is transmitted is through emotion, right? And so as I experience this love, this being loved, even though I am ridiculous at times, I know that the record is constant in its love. I want to say affection. I don't mean that smarmy kind of like, I don't know. I have nothing, I don't know what I'm saying about that. But do you know what I mean? It's not like
Hmm.
ooey gooey. It really is. It's like, come on, sit down, Lynn. What's up? And so that's how so what happens is that in my ability, or anyone's ability, to love themselves, no matter what, right? No matter what, that is the goal of healing. The goal of healing, listen, I'm not a doctor. which is a shame because I could, sometimes sometimes I think I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I didn't, the people who went to medical school read a completely different set of books than I did. But so I found out that it's not about correcting external, like, I might have, I can have locus of the bogus. I can have, a bad foot. I can have a funky eye. I can have all kinds of issues in my body. It's okay. These are not moral issues. We're just humans. That's the other thing. It really blew my mind is that in the record is really coming to recognize, I'm a person, and so are you, and so is everyone who comes to me for a reading. These are people, and our expectations are completely off the chain. I mean, listen, I understand. I really do. I want to be the best self I can be. No question, right? No question about that. However, I also want to know that I am going to fall down simply because I'm a person. I'm a person, for heaven's sakes. And that really blew my mind. I don't know why I was so surprised, but I was. I'm like, wait a minute here. I'm so easily offended by reality. It's a scream. Anyway, it's a fascinating situation. But yes, the record is tremendous for healing. Tremendous. So the first thing is to make peace with who I am in the matter. The second is to make peace. There are some things, sometimes people are going to die. Now, listen, I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying I like it. I hate it. I have a friend who passed on recently. I am still, like, I am not happy about this. I've had words with the universe more than once. But you know what? He didn't do anything wrong. He really didn't. He just died. It was time for him to go. There has to be an on ramp and an off ramp for every one of us. And I don't know. And when it shows up, we find ourselves on it, and sometimes we go, and that's the way it is.
So, how can a person using the Akashic Records move from an ordinary to an extraordinary life?
Oh, isn't that is so fascinating. So my understanding is that the longer or the more or the deeper, time is such a funny construct. It used to take a long time. Now I don't think it takes as long. But so the idea is this. The more I adopt, the more I graft onto myself, the more I grow into, because it's an internal job, the more I grow into this very loving, very forgiving, I guess the word is, the very accepting perspective, then I shift from ordinary to extraordinary. Because most of the people I see, I deal with, I teach, from all over the world. It doesn't matter if you're in China, India, Paraguay, it does not matter. People are people, right? And the more we move into our own divine potential, the more we shift naturally into an extraordinary perspective. And there are certain elements that are very helpful in this, really making peace with like these 5 pillars of consciousness, this incarnation, authority, discipline, responsibility, and commitment. I have to tell you, I don't like any of those words. I think, oh, wait a second here. You don't know. I'll take the pass on the discipline. Well, no, I won't. I will look at that. And so to look at these, not from an ordinary perspective, but from a spiritual point of view. And remember, spiritual is the same as loving. What is the most loving interpretation of each one of those concepts? And that will help us to accelerate into an extraordinary perspective. And finally, I do want to say there is a whole piece to this of of talking about our soul and our soul's purposes on this life at this time. It's no accident everyone's here. I don't know about you, but I go out in the world, I'm like, I know you, right? I'm like, oh, here we are. We have come to be on the planet at this time of dramatic upheaval, of ridiculous changes, all kinds of things, to be the presence, to embody the power, the truth, the wisdom, the light, to really be radiant beams of Akashic light in a world that desperately needs us. And so it's a time for many of us where our personal goals and aspirations, are in perfect alignment with what the universe needs, what the world needs. So, it's no accident that we're all here, together, and that we're all here now. Um, I want to say this about the book, which I think is so fabulous. Do you know, I was flipping through How to Read the Akashic Records, which was first published in 2009, a long time ago, by Sounds True. Anyway, that's a whole story, another day. But I'm flipping through this book and I'm like, this is really good. I really like that. I love it, right? This tells me how to access the record. And it gives me, it talks about, clearing unwanted ancestral patterns. Be careful, we don't want to clear them all, but we want to clear the ones we don't want. And we want to work with past lives, and we want to to be engaged in healing. And this book covers all of that. And as I'm flipping through it, I'm thinking to myself, this is so 2009. Really? And about a week later, I get the call, do you want to revise and update this book? And I have. And it's wonderful because I'm able to address some of the issues that, it's the difference between the same person when they're 9, right? And the same person when they're 26. There's so much growth and development. When that book first came out, it was the only one on Amazon. Like if you went to Amazon, you Googled, whatever, or whatever you do, you Amazoned Akashic Records, my book would come up. Why? Because that was it. It was the only book, and it was the first book of its kind to talk about how to, right? And people had referred to the Akashic Record. No one talked about how to. And I had a deliberate, trustworthy method for connecting with the Akasha that I shared with people, and that was pretty amazing. And so anyway, so in the new book, though, I get to talk about some of the growth and the changes and the development. Now, if you go on everybody and their mother is an Akashic record person. And, I don't know who they are, but anyway, and that's fine. That's really fine because, my work is my work and I have things to do and people to visit with and talk to. It's just, but it's so interesting because in the new book, I have the glossary of all the terms, right? Because as you go into the Akasha, there's a whole world of truth and understanding that we all wrestle with, of course. So we have the glossary, and then we have the most. I love this the Q&A. I'm like, ooh, baby, this is so helpful because when people start working in the record, they have lots of questions. Of course they do. And so in the book, I really try to address some of that. The other thing, though, that I think is just so important and I think really helpful for this book is that it really is from the perspective of 2026, right? That's when this book is out. And so we're looking at what have I learned? I've learned a lot. I've been all over the world. I've taught people in many cultures the idea of karma, the idea of entities. I mean, what is that? The distinction between spirituality right? And superstition, holy smokes, right? Learning that the record is not a religion, thank goodness. It's also not superstitious. And that is a terrific thing. So there are many, many different parts that I didn't even know about in 2009. Right? I mean, how would I know? I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was done. I didn't know I was just starting. So anyway, and just so you know, Marianne, I am a specialist. I can't tell you about, I don't know much about I don't know about Reiki or these other things other than the words. I don't, because, my home, my place is in the Akasha, and I'm really here living my purpose to the best of my ability, one day at a time, bringing the truth, the light to anyone who wants it and has that desire in their heart.
Oh my goodness, Linda, you're such an inspiration. Where can our readers go and listeners to learn more about you and be part of your community?
Oh, sure, sure, of course. So, of course, I have a website. It's lindahowe.com, lindahowe.com. But and that's where there's all kinds of materials there. There are the books, because I've written now 6 books specifically about the Akashic Record. They're not about anything else. I am so excited to have Macmillan and St. Martin's Press, they're together. Um, I am so excited to have them and to be working with them. These people are just tremendous. They're really great people, and they've been helping me so much to take this new book to places that I have dreamt about forever. So I'm very happy about that. So we have books, we have classes, right? Online classes. Do you know what's cool is I'm going to be doing a how to read the Akashic Records, and it will have some of the new it will have all of the new content in it, as much as we can squeeze in, if I don't get too carried away with my enthusiasm, because I do. I'm very excited about this, because for me and for everyone who is on this path, this is a way. It is a way to to hold ourselves steady in the light while the world is just having its way. The world is doing its thing. So it's a huge relief to me, right, to have found the record, to be very anchored in it, especially in these times. So we have the books, we have classes, and you know what else is, we have teacher training, which is so fun, because there are many people all over the world. The trainings are in, I don't know, every language you can think of, like a gazillion languages. Um, so you can take these classes and do them in any language you want, which is helpful, because people who want to teach, I'm never going to nowhere, you know, I don't know, in Uzbekistan. Well, we don't know if I'm going. But I mean, there are many places I cannot go. And so we need people who will work with others and be honest with them about what's possible on their journey. And that's really my hope. My hope is that people can find a way to be the best self, to love themselves and others just the way they are. Because in the meantime, on our way to perfection, which I know we all want, I want it anyway, on our way, um, we will meet one another. We will see the light in each other's eyes, and we will know that we are already doing a great job. So, thank you.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh gosh, thank you. Thank you so much. Marianne, it is a thrill to be with you today. I thank you very much. And it's really great to be with your listeners. I know you have a great group of people, and I'm really honored that I can be here and share with them.
Well, thank you, Linda. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your revised and updated best-selling book, How to Read the Akashic Records, Accessing the Archive of the Soul and Its Journey. Make sure to visit Linda at her website at lindahowe.com for more information on her work, to be part of her community, and also to sign up for her newsletter. You can purchase this book directly from Sounds True at soundstrue.com. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.